In 1913, the United States President Woodrow Wilson signed a document that would forever change American history. With a simple act of lifting a pen and signing a piece of paper, the United States would later turn to economic ruin in less than 100 years. This would rise to become Wilson's biggest regretful decision as President of the United States during this time. Quote, "When a government is dependent on bankers for money, they, not the leaders of the government, are in control of a situation. Since the hand that gives is above the hand that takes, money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism, without decency, and their sole object is only gain." The idea of a privatized central banking system existed long before 1913. In fact, since the birth of a nation, the Founding Fathers had fought strongly against the idea of having a private bank control the U.S. economy. Unfortunately, Woodrow Wilson thought differently, putting a stop to the successful objections that George Washington, Andrew Jackson, and Abraham Lincoln had. Woodrow later wrote that this regretful decision signing the 1913 Federal Act made him, quote, "the most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is now controlled by a system of credit. Our system of credit has concentrated the growth of a nation. Therefore, all the activities in the hands of only a few men will control the direction of the world. We have come to be the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled, dominated governments in a civilized world. No longer government by free opinion, no longer government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but the government instead has become by the opinion and duress of only a small group of wealthy men." So we know from history that the Founding Fathers warned us against such banks like the Federal Reserve. But what is it that makes the Federal Reserve so dangerous? Well, since 1913, the US dollar has lost 95% of its value. That means in 1913, what you could buy nowadays for $1 would have only costed a nickel. Also, by the Act law, the Federal Reserve, has actually broken the law since 2002. The U.S. must have 40% of its value established in gold. Unfortunately, with a debt ceiling of nearly $16 trillion to China, we are nowhere near supplying the amount of gold needed to establish 40%. As a result of these poor financial decisions of the U.S. government and illegal printing that the Federal Reserve continues to do of U.S. dollars, we are teetering on the edge of a global economic collapse. Between 2002 and 2012, the U.S. dollar dropped 54.7% against the euro. This means this has brought on higher taxation and more beneficial cuts to the American people. Money plays the largest role in determining the course of history, said Karl Marx of the Communist Manifesto. Some will passionately debate that the answer is the gold standard. Some will passionately debate that the answer is paying off the debt ceiling, just slowly starting to tackle things. But one thing's for sure, the problem is going to continue unless the Federal Reserve is ended. With the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve working together to control this economic state, which has led us to ruin and global threat, it is time to start taking things a new direction. It's time to end the Federal Reserve. I agree with Ron Paul's quote when he says that something's not right when the American people have to pay over half of their wages to federal taxing. So with that, I leave you with the final thought: is it really worth it? Thanks.